Hey everyone, it's Mother Goose. And look where I am. I'm out at the lake. I'm fishing. Not really, I'm in the library, but I am here today with a special guest from Roanoke State Park, and her name is Sierra Harwood. Can you scoot your chair over a little bit, Sierra? Oh, there she is. Hi, Sierra.
Hi, guys.
And we're going to talk to her about water animals. So this week's spotlight is on water animals. So she's going to be our expert today. Okay. And so, Sierra, what is the best time to go fishing?
So actually, there's quite a few different times to go fishing. It really just depends on the season. I did bring some notes for that, so I could tell you guys about what times would be good, especially right now for the summertime.
Okay.
So for summer, the best time to go fishing is early in the morning from dawn until 2 hours past sunrise, and then late afternoon, 3 hours before sunset.
Oh, not in the hot part of the day.
Yeah, no, it's in the cooler part of the day. That's when they start to come out, and that's when a lot of their food source comes out as well. A lot of fish do insects and things like that, and insects like to come out when it starts to get cool and starts to get a little bit darker.
Very good. All right, I forgot to say that Sierra is the new recreation coordinator out at Roanoke State Park, and we're so happy to have her. It's a new position, and she's planned all kinds of activities out there, and we'll let her talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so as for bait, what is the best kind of bait, or do you have to use different bait for different fish?
So you actually use a lot of different bait for different fish. There are some live bait, and then there's some other ones that are just made out of like little plastic that you can reuse over and over again.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much what I always suggest to people, if you're going to go fishing, make sure to look up in the area what type of fish is around there. So then you can get a better bait, so you can get a more easier bite, and you're able to catch more fish.
Okay. Wow, that sounds good. Okay. All right. So, well, speaking of that, what kind of fish live at Roanoke?
So we have trout fish, we have carp, we have, bluegill, green sunfish. There's a slew of them. So actually at Roanoke State Park, when it was first open, they actually put 50,000 different types or so of fish in there.
Wow.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. There's about 20 sport fish specifically that people go fishing for out at Roanoke. When we get to our PowerPoint, we're going to go over at least 8 of them. Okay. We're going to talk about what they look like, what their habitat is, and just kind of like how they reproduce and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, that sounds great. Now, I know that there is a competition at Roanoke called the Trout Derby, and that happens once a year. Mm-hmm. And so do people are they specifically fishing just for trout, or does it really matter?
I think it's just for trout in that instance.
Okay.
I don't know much about the Trout Derby just yet.
Okay.
I've heard quite a bit of people talking about it. I know people go out there because that's one of the big things that we do out Roanoke. But I believe it's more trout fishing than any of the other fish, because a lot of the times with fishing tournaments, you'll catch a specific species. Okay. They'll weigh it. They'll judge like if it's female, male, and like the coloration of it. And then based off of all those aspects, they'll judge who had the best catch.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So if I wanted to go fishing, where am I going to buy fishing supplies?
So there's actually quite a few different places you can go. They have a bait shop out by the general store. They have, what's it called? Ace Tractor Supply. You can go out to the Bass Shop, the Bass Pro. Yeah, places like that. A lot of any outdoor store, pretty much.
But here in town, you think we could get them like a Tractor Supply or even out at the park?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should be able to go to those places. There might be a shop here. I'm not sure. But pretty much they have a place, at least one location in any type of town where you can go get that. Okay. Because especially here in Oklahoma, fishing is very prevalent.
Yes. Okay. Well, that sounds great. Where can you fish at Roanoke?
So you can fish at Roanoke in Lake Watonga. I wouldn't say Lake Baker, just because Lake Baker is mostly for the rentals of the canoes and the paddle boats. Don't see a lot of people over in that section.
Is that the body of water that's right by the general store?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't even know what its name was.
Yeah, so that's actually Lake Baker. That was the first lake that was made in the park. Okay. It was actually made when the park was going to be a recreation facility by the Cronkite family. And then when they took over, they tried to expand it. So it was actually bigger than what it originally was.
Okay.
And then a couple feet away, they found more foundation. And so then they made Lake Watonga.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of our fishing takes place.
Okay. Lake Watonga. Okay. Now, I did hear that it was drained.
Yes. Lake Watonga is drained down right now. They are working on the dam. Hopefully they'll get done around like October-ish or so.
Okay.
And they're going to refill the lake and restock it with the fish.
Okay. So October, we'll try to keep you posted on that because that sounds fun. Okay. Well, we've talked a lot about fish, but what else lives in the water besides fish?
So you got snakes that live around there. You got insects, you got birds. There's like a whole ecosystem in the water and that works together. And there's obviously like algae, and then there's plankton, little tiny plankton. You don't see them very often, but that's what a lot of fish actually eat is little planktons.
Okay.
And that's where you get a lot of their nutrients from.
Okay. So I know that I have been out to Foggy Bottom eating. It's a good place to eat at Romano's. And I've watched out on the water. I've sat out on the deck and watched, and there's some geese and maybe ducks that float around. And do they make their home right around the lake?
Yeah. If you go out there, you'll always see them. There's never a day when they're not there.
Okay. Also,
they're very social for being here in a state park because there's always people who are around them and feeding them food. So they will actually come up to you.
Okay.
My very first day, we giving a tour to a 4-H group, and we went to show them the general store. We had some ducks and geese, and they literally not even a foot away from me.
Oh, they were just following you around. Yeah,
they just follow you, and they try to get in your car too if you're not careful.
So, are there any other waterfowl?
So we got blue herons, whooping cranes. There's a lot. I can't even name them all.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch out there, and you'll see them if you go out there. Especially right now, there's actually a lot of cranes in the drained out Lake of Watonga because they'll get a lot of their food out of the little muddy, shallow waters.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Well, right now I'm going to switch it over and let Sierra put her PowerPoint on, and she's got lots of information for us about water animals and fish and all kinds of things. So we're going to share the screen right now, okay? And she will talk to us about this. As soon as I can get it all clicked in here, because we're all, oh, there it is. I knew it was there somewhere. Okay, Sierra.
Alrighty. So we're actually going to talk about 8 different sport fish that you can actually find here in Watonga, specifically out at Romano's. We have bluegill, spotted bass, striped bass, blue catfish, channel catfish, Sagi, which is actually a hybrid fish.
I thought that said sausage.
It just kind of looked like it, doesn't it? Green sunfish and rainbow trout. So this is what a bluegill looks like.
Oh, wow.
They're very colorful. And obviously they're called bluegills because they have bluegills. You'll notice them from the coloration. So we're going to go over this. I probably won't talk about each section just to save on some time. But on Oklahoma distribution, due to the widespread hatchery stockings, bluegills are found statewide in all types of water. Their habitat, young bluegills frequent shallow, weedy areas near the shore, while adults prefer deeper waters during the day and shallows in the morning and evening. Their natural food source is insects, crustaceans, larvae, snails, and occasionally bluegill eat aquatic plants as well. Spawning occurs throughout the summer after temperatures reach about 75 degrees. So about right now is when they're reproducing. Bluegills spawn in groups, constructing colonies and nests on the spawning grounds. Males prepare a nest by making a small depression in sand or gravel in the water about 3 feet deep. And then the female can produce up to an average of 40,000 eggs per season.
Wow.
And then young bluegill are important farm forage fish for bass and catfish. However, the high productive rate of bluegill often results in overcrowding populations of stunted fish. The problem can be controlled by restricting harvest of largemouth bass, and bluegill seldomly exceed about 12 inches in length, and a 1 pound fish is considered large.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is, that's our bluegill. We're gonna move on. This is our spotted bass. I know a lot of people know about bass. When they think about fishing, they think about bass, which is a pretty good fish to go for. Oklahoma distribution. Common in both Arkansas and Red River systems, spotted bass prefer clear lakes and streams in eastern Oklahoma. Although an important game fish in Oklahoma, spotted bass haven't been widely cultured or stocked, so you don't see them quite as often as you would see some of the other fish. The habitat, spotted bass inhabit flowing streams in eastern Oklahoma and are more tolerant of slow, warm, turbid water than smallmouth. In lakes, spotted bass are found in deeper water. They prefer rocky bottom areas as well as areas with steeply sloping sides. Their natural food sources is crayfish and immature insects make up the bulk of their diet. They also eat small fish such as bluegill that we just talked about. Spawning takes place in the spring when water temperatures reach 63 to 68 degrees. Males clean out a nest on a gravel or rock bottom, usually near heavy cover. And then after the eggs are laid and fertilized, male guards usually near the heavy cover. And then nest in a manner similar to largemouth bass and remain with the fry until they are about 1 month old. And fry is actually the word that they use for young fish and hatchlings like that.
It's not a fish fry like we're going to eat them.
No. But it is very ironic that it's called like that.
Yeah.
This is our striped bass. Kind of similar to our first one, but different colorations and patterns. Naturally reproducing population of striped bass have developed in Lake Texoma and Keystone and in the Arkansas River. Navigation system, Foss, Tenkiller, Canton, Great Salt Plains, Grand, and Kaw Lakes also have been stocked. So a lot of places you go here in Oklahoma, you'll usually find them. The habitat, stripers are found cruising in large schools in open water. They don't frequent shoreline, so you'll have to be out in the water to go get them.
Okay.
Their natural food source is insects, shads, and minnows. Shads and minnows are like tiny little fish, insect things. They're kind of weird looking, to be honest.
Right.
They reproduce. The spawning urge is triggered at water temps of 55 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, reaching at a peak of about 65 degrees. Female stripers may produce up to 5 million eggs, which is a lot.
Yeah.
The eggs are semi-buoyant and require a moving, unobstructed river during incubation. When the water is still, eggs sink in the silt and the embryos die of suffocation.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so if you guys ever heard of a fish hatchery, what they'll do, especially like this instance of this type of fish, when they collect the eggs, they'll put it in a container. And what it does is it pumps like air currents, and then it creates the eggs to keep moving, just like a stream would, so that they can keep growing.
Okay. That's very interesting.
This is our blue catfish. This is the straight anal fin, and then this is the forked tail. The blue catfish, originally restricted to the Red River, blue catfish are now found in most sections of the state due to transplanting. They have adapted well to the Arkansas River system. Their habitat is found in large rivers and major reservoirs. Blue catfish generally prefer areas with sand, gravel, or rock bottoms. Some of their natural food sources, they are fish, mussels, snails, insects, and crayfish. They usually reproduce in late May or early June when the water temp reaches 75 degrees. They live in hollow logs, overhanging underwater ledges, or holes under mud banks are typically the nesting places. Females lay about 10,000 eggs each. Male guard the eggs against intruders, including the female. They keep the old mom out of that. The eggs hatch in 6 to 10 days as determined by the temp. After hatching, fry are attended for a short time by the male as they are fed in a dense school. So interesting enough is that actually there are quite a few fish. Once they reproduce, the female does. The male takes over guarding the nest and keeping any predators out of there. And they actually don't even let the female come back. So then she just goes off on her merry way, which is very strange.
It
but
is.
Nature.
Right.
This is our channel catfish. It has more of a purple coloration on its fins, more of a greenish tint. And if you notice, there's like some lines of the yellow stripes that you'll keep an eye on if you see that. Common statewide in streams, ponds, and lakes. Their habitat is found in large rivers and major reservoirs. Blue catfish generally prefer areas with sand, gravel, or rock bottoms. And then they are omnivores, feeding on a wide variety of organic matter, dead and alive. Some of the more common foods are fish, mussels, snails, insects, and crayfish, same as the blue catfish. So it's pretty much the same what we read on the habitat and food source. It's just the coloration of identifying them. This is a Sagi. Actually, this is a hybrid fish, which I will tell you in just a second. This is the distinct spots and bars with webbing on the spinal dorsal fin, and the cheeks are covered with scales. And then the body gold with the distinct brown blotches is what you'll be able to identify it as. So the first Sagi, which is actually a hybrid between a Sodger and a walleye fish, stocking Oklahoma was in Lake Thunderbird in May 1985. Since this initial stocking, many other state lakes have been stocked with Sagis. The Sagi tend to congregate near the bottom on sandbars or near crayfish. Small shad and fish are some of their food that they eat, minnows, night crawlers, and crayfish. The Sagis are produced within our state fish hatchery. Female walleyes are crossed with male Sagis, resulting in a hybrid known as Sagis. These hybrids don't reproduce and must be stocked on an annual basis.
Okay.
Yeah, so the only way that they can be made is pretty much in our fish hatchery, so they won't ever reproduce in a natural setting.
Okay.
This is our green sunfish. Green sunfish have wavy lines by its face. It has a pretty large mouth, as you can see. And then also it has a prettyish yellow goldish coloration on the bottom with a nice green that helps it blend in with algae. So you can see it more if you're underneath it, which is not likely to happen.
Right.
Green sunfish are the most common sunfish species in the state. They are found in a wide variety of water systems, including ponds, lakes, rivers, streams, and small creeks. The habitat, usually they inhabit rocky areas or areas with lots of aquatic plants and brush piles. They tolerate a wide range of turbidity, temperature, and oxygen levels, and are well adapted to the fluctuating conditions of prairie systems. They like to eat insects, crustaceans, larvae, and snails. They're very similar to other members of the sunfish family when they're reproducing. They reproduce throughout the summer and may nest in colonies. The males build a nest just like before, fanning out a small depression near a shoreline. After the female lays her eggs, then the male keeps guarding it and sends the female away, drives her away from that, which is still very weird in my opinion. So this is rainbow trout. I think a lot of people know about rainbow trout just because it is a very pretty fish and it's very common for fishing. They have iridescent sides, hence why it gets its name rainbow, especially when the light's reflecting off of the scales. It's very pretty. They have black spots on their fins. Year-round put and take trout fishing is available on the lower Illinois River from Tenkiller Dam downstream to US Highway 70's bridge. Trout can also be caught on a seasonal basis at the following areas: Quartz Mountain, Watonga, Etling, Pawhuska, Robbers Cave, and the Blue River. State fishing regulations list the seasons for these areas if you ever want to go fishing during those times. The habitat, the rainbows are found in streams around riffles, eddies, and behind exposed obstructions. In lakes, they are found in the deeper pool areas off shoreline points. Their food source is aquatic insects such as mayflies, caddisflies, stoneflies, Dobson flies, dragonflies, and it's mostly flies.
That's a lot of flies.
That's a lot of flies. I didn't even know there was that many different types of flies. Plus mollusks and small fish. The rainbow usually reproduce at water temperatures of 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and incubation requires 50 days at 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Rainbows are not known to spawn naturally in Oklahoma, so they are brought in and stocked.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to talk about our water birds. We're going to talk about 4 water birds, and then later on we're going to talk about 4 of our snakes that are found here as well. Some of the water birds is our blue heron, our white American pelican, our mallards, and whooping cranes. So this is a great blue heron. You actually will see these more frequently out at Romanos. in my opinion. I've seen a lot of these. They're very gorgeous, very long, lanky legs. They live in marshes, swamps, shorelines, and tide flats. They're very adaptable. They forage in any kind of calm, fresh water on moving rivers, also in shallow coastal bays. Their natural food source is they mostly eat fish, but also frogs, salamanders, turtles, snakes, insects, rodents, and birds.
Wow.
Yeah, they have a wide variety of different food that they can take. They have even been seen stalking some moles and gophers in the fields. They lay eggs about 3 to 5, sometimes 2 to 7 eggs. Their eggs are pale blue. Incubation is by both sexes to 25 to 30 days. The young, both parents feed the young by regurgitation, and they are capable of flight about 60 days after they leave the nest. So this is our American white pelican. You can see some of these on different points throughout the year. If you go up more toward the northeast, let's say like around Grand Lake area, you'll actually see more of these. They have an island called Pelican Island.
Oh, okay.
That'd be a cool place to visit if you guys ever get the chance. The white American pelican, one of the largest birds in North America, with 9-foot wingspan, similar to brown pelicans in shape, but much larger and in very different in habitats. They occur far inland, feeds properly in shallow lakes, and doesn't dive from the air for fish. They mostly fish, primarily eat rough fish of little value to humans, so like crayfish and salamanders and things. So a lot of the fish that you would just catch and release. They would mostly eat those.
Eat that.
The migration, most populations are migratory. Some populations on Texas coast and in Mexico are permanent residents. They migrate by day in flocks. Breeders from northern plains migrate southeast and southwest to coastal lowlands, and some non-breeding birds remain through the summer on winter range, especially in Florida. Strays wander widely, including to the northeast. This is a mallard, or also known as a duck.
Okay.
There's quite a few different ducks. This one's known as a mallard specifically for its coloration in the feathers. So like how it has that greenish head and then like a brownish lighter body. And then it's also, you can distinguish it with the little white collar around its neck. Abundant over most of the northern hemisphere, the mallard is the most familiar wild duck to many people and the ancestors of most strains of domesticate itself. Relying on handouts in city parks, although barnyards and feral ducks may be dumpy and ungainly creatures, the ancestral wild mallard is a trim, elegant, wary, fast-flying bird. They're omnivores. The majority of their diet is plant material, including seeds, stems, and roots of a variety of plants. They also eat insects, crustaceans, mollusks, and tadpoles. And then young ducklings especially mostly eat aquatic insects. They migrate during the fall. Fall migration extends over long periods, migrates relatively early in spring. Since pairs form in fall and winter, males probably follow female to breeding areas. The feral population may be permanent residents, but all wild mallards in North America are most likely migratory. This is our whooping crane. These are some of the other birds that you'll see out at Romanos. We got a lot of cranes. So whooping cranes are very large. They're tall birds with long necks and long legs. The bill is stout and straight. Their overall slender body widens to a plump bustle at the tail. In flight, the wings are broad and the neck is fully extended. So it's a very big bird. The color patterns, the adults have bright white birds with accents of red on the head. The legs, bill, and wingtips are black, and then the immature ones are whitish below, but mottled brown rusty above on their heads. Whooping cranes breed in shallow grassy wetlands, interspersed with grasslands or scattered evergreens. During migration, they stop over on wide, shallow river flats. The winter mainly in coastal marshes and estuaries. Okay, so now we're on to the water snakes. So we're going to talk a little bit more on the water snakes when we get to the pages, but pretty much I emphasize on this section specifically, especially right now, snakes are coming out more. This is about the time when they're like, I can't even explain how many there are that come out, but if you go out to Romanos, you'll see them. And I want you guys to make sure to keep in mind, if you're going to go out there, do not walk in the tall grass without seeing where you're stepping, is pretty much what I'm going to say. One of the big misconceptions is that a lot of people will see a diamondback or a plain-bellied water snake, and they think it's a cottonmouth. And the only venomous snake on this list is the cottonmouth. So we're going to like show you what they look like. You'll see kind of how they're similar, but you're going to learn about how to distinguish them.
Oh, good. Okay.
So this is a northern diamondback. You'll see these more out at Romanos near Lake Watonga. They're pretty big sized. The northern diamondback water snakes are large, heavily bodied snakes that are usually found in, near, or above water. The background color of the body is dark gray to olive or yellow brown, and a series of connected black irregular markings extend the full length of the body in a chain-like pattern. The belly is yellow or off-white and has a half-moon-shaped brown or black marking along the lateral edges of the bellies. The dorsal scales are heavily keeled. The only remotely similar non-venomous snake is the plain-bellied water snake and the cottonmouth, which has distinctive blotches as a juvenile rather than a chain-like pattern. The northern diamondback water snakes are primarily aquatic, but can be found relatively, if I can speak, far from obvious bodies of water during heavy rainstorms. They live in rivers, streams, ponds, oxbows, lakes, and boggy areas. Mating occurs in spring, and these live-bearing snakes produce young from mid-August through early October. The number of offsprings vary with female body size. Small females can produce as few as 7 young, whereas very large females can produce as many as 48 to 50 young. Yeah, big difference.
Wow.
Big difference.
That's a lot of snakes.
Definitely don't even walking into that if that's happening.
So they're not in eggs.
No.
They're live.
These are live. Yeah, these are born like snakes. A lot of other ones.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a lot of people, there's some snakes that when they lay eggs, and then there's ones where they just like do it like any other kind of animal, like a cow or something.
Yeah.
They mostly are active where was I? Aside from daytime basking, most activity occurs just before dark and at night. The North Diamondback water snakes primarily eat fish, but occasionally take tadpoles, frogs, reptiles, mammals, and some invertebrates. The Northern Diamondback, this is the most important thing, they are harmless to humans. You leave them be, they won't mess with you. They're not venomous. They just look intimidating because they're a bigger snake.
So is this a rattlesnake?
No,
this is a water snake.
This is a water snake.
Okay.
You'll see them mostly on the banks if you go out to a lake or something, especially if there's tall grass. They'll like to lay there and keep close to the water.
Okay.
But a lot of people see them and they get intimidated, or they'll think it's a cottonmouth because of the colors and the scales, just what it kind of looks like. I usually tell people, if you see a snake, leave it be, but like it won't mess with you. The only times animals will harm you technically is when they're defending themselves.
Right.
If you leave any animal alone, you'll be perfectly fine. And one of the big problems we have is that a lot of people, they see a snake, they kill it. And that is a big issue that we have to struggle with, because there's a whole bunch of harmless snakes and their numbers are dwindling because people do that. So it's really important to educate others that leave them be, you'll be fine. Don't think it's venomous right off the bat. A lot of the times it isn't. This is our plain-bellied water snake, kind of similar to the one before, except a little bit different patterns and coloration on the body. The plain-bellied water snakes are large, heavily bodied snakes that are usually found in, near, or above water. Similar to diamondback water snakes, in western Oklahoma, they are called blotched water snakes because their adult coloration is considerably lighter. The background color of the body is gray to olive with a series of light-colored but darker blotches that extend the full length of the body. They live in North America. The distribution of these water snakes extend west to east from southeastern New Mexico to New Jersey, and north to south from central Michigan into Mexico. The plain-bellied water snakes are primarily aquatic, but often move away from water both during and after rainstorms. During spring, it is common to find these snakes coiled or stretched out well away from banks or ponds. Basking in the sun, they are associated with nearly all wetlands. The adults vary from about 30 to 48 inches, but reach nearly 5 feet. Newly born young are about 7 to 12 inches in total length.
Wow.
So this is our Gulf crayfish snake. I think this one's super cute. I love its face. Gulf crayfish snake is a dark brown to olive brown snake with heavily keeled scales. The body actually has a shiny appearance. The dorsal surface can have 2 narrow stripes on each side of the midline. Let's see. The Gulf crayfish snake is strictly aquatic. They're usually associated with swamps, ponds, boggy areas, streams, and rivers. The Oklahoma distribution is restricted to the southeastern part of the state, so largely the upper coastal plain. Because Gulf crayfish snakes live in water where crayfish are common, their distribution is not continuous, rather it follows water courses. The life cycle, most activity occurs at night, but they are active during the day as well, especially on rainy or overcast days. They feed mostly on crayfish, but occasionally eat frogs. Unlike graham crayfish snakes, Gulf crayfish snakes prefer hard-shelled crayfish, and then mating occurs during spring in the water. Gulf crayfish snakes are live-bearing, just like our first snake we talked about, which was the Diamondback. The females give birth to their young in late summer. The number of young vary with female size, with littering range from 6 to 14. So this is a super important one. So this is our main venomous snake. This is where a lot of people also know. So this is the northern cottonmouth, which is most commonly known as a moccasin, a water moccasin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've heard of that.
So this heavily bodied snake has a pattern that is typically obscured by its dark coloration. The back is usually a mix of black, brown, and olive green, and the belly is white or cream colored with black molting. The snake has weakly keeled scales, a vertical pupil not round, as an obvious head sensing pit between the eyes and nostril. So a lot of the snakes we saw before in the photos, they had like more of a rounder eye. This one will have more of like a slit shape.
Can you go back to the picture?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Uh-oh. Oh, we can't really see the eyes, but okay.
Also, the head shape is more like a flat, narrow, not as rounded.
Okay.
But like if we go back, you see how the eyeballs here are really round.
Yeah.
That's a good distinguishing factor of it.
Okay.
It's a cottonmouth or water moccasin, a lot of people know as. The adults are 20 to 42 inches long. They like to eat fish, amphibians, birds, and sometimes even other snakes. They mate in spring and give birth to about 1 to 15 young in late summer. And females often have babies every other year. Their habitat is permanent sources of water. Newborn cottonmouths have a bright, distinctive pattern, which they lose as they darken with age. And they have a yellow tail tip they use as a lure to catch prey. Like their pattern, they can also lose this tail coloration as they grow. The name cottonmouth is derived from the snake's habit of opening its mouth in a defensive posture when it feels threatened. Other names for the snakes are water moccasins and trap jaw.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the ones you have to be very careful of. A lot of people, if they see a snake in the water, this is the number one snake they think it is.
Yeah.
Which is not always the case, but you learn to distinguish it between. Also, just leave it be and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So that's the end of our slideshow. We talked about.
Just go ahead and hit that.
We talked about our 8 sport fish that's found here, our 4 water birds, and our 4 snakes that are also found here. And obviously there's more. And if you guys have questions, I'm always willing to answer your questions. If I don't know it, we can definitely get it figured out.
Okay. So if you have any questions, you can call the library and I can get you in touch with Sierra out at Romano's, or you can just call Romano's and ask for Sierra and see if she can answer your questions. But we're going to sign off now. Don't forget to come get your craft bags for the week. Also, next Tuesday night on the 22nd, starting around 8:30, 8:15, 8:30, you can come to the right behind the library, and we're going to have a movie, and we're going to be benefiting the Watauga Cat Foundation, where they take care of kittens and cats that are out on the street with no place to go, and then they get them healthy and they adopt them out. So we want you to, if you are able to, bring a cat toy or some cat food or something like that and enjoy a movie with us out in the park. we'll have popcorn and stuff like that. So anyway, that's the 22nd. And I just want to thank Sierra Harwood for her willingness to come and jump in and do this at the last minute for us. And we always enjoy Romano's out here in Watonga, and it's a great place to go. And now it's even going to be better with you there. So
thank you. We got a lot of new stuff happening out there, and then I'm obviously making programs. So like when you guys come out, you'll have more things to do for fun with your friends.
Okay, so where do they check in to find out what is going on at Romano?
So usually they can either ask up at the lodge or any of the buildings. They all have my phone number. My office is actually located in the Gulf Pro Shop. So right, that building to your right when you come into the park, I am in there most of the time. So if you guys want to stop by, see if I'm there, we can talk about if you have questions about anything, or if maybe if you want to go on like a short little tour. I also do guided hikes, typically every Saturday. This Saturday, we're not doing one, but every other Saturday, we're doing a guided hike. I'll take a group out on Canyon Spur for inspiration. We'll talk about the history, the animals, the plants, or anything else you guys are curious about.
Wow, did you know that? Well, that'll be fun. That would be a lot of fun for some families to do, something to do, or some groups, even a church group or something like that. So, all right. So we're going to sign off now, and thank you, audience, for being here. If you signed on with us, it's nice to have you. And if not, we're going to post this to YouTube so everyone can watch. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.